Okay, here we go. And so, the 4 servers we're building, here are the names. Use these names. Although down here, I think I had the name, I transposed some of the words, but no big deal. Whatever you name it, be consistent with the naming. The IP address for each of them, slightly different than the IP address for the previous ones, which means, and Anthony asked this question, when it comes to pointing to the DNS server, I've explained on a number of occasions, because I see people make this error in industry, in the real world, where DNS must always point to itself. So server DC1, DNS address must be this, because it has to point to itself. And all other machines must point to server DC1, which is this IP address right here. The old IP addressing that, I don't say the old, but the IP addressing that's assigned in the lab configuration guide from the book, we're not using here. We changed that to these. So that is something that has to be taken into account when you're building out a network, which subnet you're using. Well, our subnet is 192.168.25.0. We're on that subnet. And it's not subnetted. It's just a default Class C subnet in subnet mask. I just had a thought. I'd like to maybe start setting up separate subnets and have you build machines in a different subnet, especially with the DHCP server, so it can assign an IP address from a totally different subnet. But that's me thinking different classes. So you are going to build the 4 servers using Windows Server 2016. In order to find the ISO for those 4 servers, let's go back to modules. You go to the Microsoft Azure instructions document. When you go to this Azure instructions document, you'll click the link here, and it will take you to Microsoft Azure. You sign in with your student email address, and then once you're signed in with your student email address, then you'll go to the software link. It's going to be on your left side. Once you click software, you'll see in the list, or you can do a search for it, Windows Server, and here's Windows Server 2016 Data Center. Well, that's the one you're going to want to download. So this is going to allow you to download the ISO. If I click on it, you can also grab the key for it, so that you can license it if you care to. It is not a requirement to license the server versions, because you're not going to have it around that long. And you may want to keep them. I think I mentioned to you guys, I know a student who took them on a job interview and kind of talked about what he did in terms of building a Windows Server-based network, and the interviewers were impressed by that. So maybe you want to keep it as a portfolio in your portfolio, and something to talk about. And in that regard, and if you maybe want to demonstrate it for someone later, you don't want your servers to expire, you may want to download the product key and apply it. But for my class, it's really not necessary. The other thing you're going to download from the same site is Windows 10. So we type Windows 10 here, and you're going to grab Windows 10 Education version. Any one of these, they're relatively the same. Alright, so Windows 10 Education version. Again, grab the product key, and once you click on that, and you click on View Key, it's going to generate the key. Copy the key to clipboard. Generate URL.
different download links, but it had given me the same product key 4 separate times. Is it supposed to do that or no?
It can will because it's your account, so you can use the same key to license on all 4 servers. That's fine.
So you know generally on any kind of like common product, you're supposed to have different ones, so it just licenses it. But
it depends on the licensing. So Microsoft uses something called the Microsoft Volume Licensing Program. And so you'll find when you go in industry and you start deploying lots of machines, you can use the same key for all those machines, as long as you own a volume license for them. So you can oftentimes use the same key.
Oh.
For Microsoft products. Now when you start talking Adobe and some other products to join those keys, Microsoft allows you to use the same keys. Alright, so where'd it go? So here's Windows 10. It started downloading for me, although I already had it. But that's just that's how you grab Windows Server 2016 and also download Windows 10 to build your VMs using this Microsoft Azure link. Let's go back to Final Project. Again, build the 4 servers, configure them so that they communicate with each other. Remember the things you had to do. We cross-referenced this with the lab setup guide. Remember that? So the lab setup guide said that you're going to want to disable the Windows firewall. Why had you disable the Windows firewall? Let's go back to that lab setup guide. Go to the setup guide, it kind of walks you through. We're still using some of the commands from this. The only thing we did, essentially, we changed the names of the servers and we changed the IP addresses. Much of the rest of this is going to remain the same. So we're going to make the password, you can make the password the same password. The memory, same amount of memory. Hard disk, same size. Change the IP address, change the DNS. Now, in this regard, though, you wouldn't have to change the DNS because what they're using is the loopback address. If you use the loopback address, it is what it is, right? Me, personally, I always use the IP address of the machine rather than the loopback address. One thing that happens when you install Active Directory will always convert the DNS address back to the loopback. It just does that automatically. I'll just go back in and change it back. For Ethernet connection 2, remember what we did here though, we didn't use this IP address when we in your regular machine. You were to go look at them. The other thing you can do when you're building these, you can sometimes refer back to the other machines just to get an idea how something is configured. So use it as a resource in terms of your new machine. So Ethernet 2, we actually used DHCP. We used automatic addressing for it. We didn't use a manual IP address or a static IP address for that. Now, the domain name can be the same. I didn't change that for your exercise. I have given this exercise when I had to reuse the domain name. But in this case, when you convert it to a domain, use the same name. You're not creating these accounts. I gave you other accounts to create, right? I said create a couple user accounts, however you want to create them. Down here, the power settings, Internet Explorer settings you can configure or set the user account control. The one thing I don't see here that I had you guys do was to disable the firewall. Because out of the box, Windows Server will not allow ICMP pings, ICMP traffic. It will block it. And so in order to ping, it won't ping. In fact, it will get in the way of DNS. So when you try to join the other computers to the domain, they won't join. And so disable the firewall on all 4 machines. That was one caveat. Other than that, everything else should be the same as the lab configuration. how to build or set up your environment so far? Any questions so far? Okay.
Do I have to give them all every individual hard drive? I didn't hear you say anything about that because it says 874, but I don't have the space to try to throw that all together.
Good question, Tyler. You do not have to create all 4 hard drives on those other 3 machines. Server DC1 FX is the only machine that has 1 drive according to that configuration. All the other machines had 3 additional drives for a total of 4 drives. You don't need those extra drives. You only need that one. Thanks for asking that question, Tyler.
Also,
we're not working through all the labs at this point. We're just doing the course final project. Great. Go ahead, Tyler.
So I noticed you also have in the checklist, you have server DC1 FP, and then you change his name to FX. Are we supposed to create another set of servers under that?
No. I have to go back to the original Word document and change that, which is why I express up here. Once you call server DC1 FP for final project, because I was kind of thinking of this as I was going along, I didn't go back down here and change it. So once you call it this, it's going to be called that throughout. And so I'll update this document because I don't want any confusion. I'll update this document. Server DC1 FP is server DC1 FP. That's just it. You're not going to be changing the name of it. And down here, I've got server DM final 1 and server DM final 2. Then up here, I decided to change it again. Instead of saying final, I call it FP for final project. I just need to go back. Bear with me.
As long as they're all named the same, I just put the last, 3 letters, and you're okay then.
You got it. That's correct. That's correct. So that should change it for next time. I don't take up your time changing it. But I'll get it changed and updated. But just for those, because I don't think everybody's here today, so that question's going to come up. But for those who are here, then you're aware that you're using these names up here. What I did, I started from the bottom up. I started down here and then started working my way up. But I need to go in and change all that stuff down here too. So, great question. All right, so you're going to install and configure Active Directory. A big part of what this class was about. Working in Windows Server Active Directory using Active Directory domain services. And understanding how a network, Windows Server-based network is set up and how you add objects to it, manage those objects, retrieve those objects, you name it. So that's a big part of it. So you should be able to install AD, set up, configure it, and then join these 2 computers to the domains. You're only joining these 2 right now. Later on, though, when you've got your DHCP configured, you're going to be joining a 3rd machine to the domain, a Windows 10 workstation. That gets joined to the domain, too. So 3 computers joined to the domain. The 2 member servers and 1 workstation. The 2 member servers, though, are joined to the domain, and they get their IP address from static assignments. So you're going to be statically assigning them. The Windows 10 machine is going to get its IP address from the DHCP server. We'll refer back to Tyler. Tyler, so your Windows 10 machine is getting an automatic IP address from your DHCP?
Yep, that it is. Though, for some odd reason, it's only getting the very first one and not a random one. So,
what do you mean the very first one and not a random one?
It gives me 192.168.25100 as its address always, instead of like 192.168.200.104.
That's what it would do. That's how DHCP operates. It'll start assigning them addresses in sequence, and until all of them are used. Then after they're all used, that's when it'll start giving you random assignments